All right, so let's start the show. Good morning, everybody. Let me do the full video here, full screen, and then we're going to talk about what's going on in the markets this morning. I'm also going to move some screens around. Can everybody hear me? Can everybody see me? So once we can confirm that, we can carry on. If you're here for the first time, this is the London session on TopstepTV. My name is Deeyana Angelo, aka Market Stalker Dee. I'm a Series 3 licensed professional futures trader. I've been trading for almost 13 years now. Christ, time flies. In the futures, and overall, I've actually been trading for almost 18 years since I started. All right, so I am trying a little Nikkei trade. Now, I generally don't like trading too much before sort of the 15th of the month. So we're going to be staying on some of the combines, and also because I haven't slept at all last night. One of my dogs was sick throughout the night, so I feel a little bit out of sorts today on like 3 hours sleep. And whenever that's happening, it's probably not a good idea to go and plow into any trades that matter. So we're going to see what happens. But basically, the idea for Nikkei trade is that we are opening below the London value area. London value low is located at 40,135. We also have some larger time frame areas of interest, like this general overhead supply and a bit of a slowdown in price. Yesterday, the US equities smashed down pretty hard and tried to do a bit of a short squeeze towards the end. However, that short squeeze was pretty pathetic, so that just spoke to the strength of the sellers, right? But still, there were opportunities to be had, even if you were trading very late in the day. If you watched Power Hour, that's when they were trying to get a trade on NQ, but I actually did a couple of them on ES, and yeah, so that was a pretty fun way to end the day. So basically, what I'm looking for on this Nikkei trade is a continuation of that bearish sentiment, effectively, and just to see whether we can get more shakeouts to the downside. Whenever something opens below the London value area or below any sort of value, but it's kind of near the value, it opens up a possibility for mainly bearish sentiment. Now, obviously, we need some follow through to that. So the next thing that I look for as a continuation into that trade is for the market to extend the initial balance low. So I'm going to drop down to a 30-minute chart on Nikkei. And the initial balance is actually just here where this price is trying to break now. So it's literally the bottom of this previous candle, so not this black one, but this white candle. So if I go like this, you can see they tried to test inside the value area and then failed. So now we need like a dedicated extension below initial balance, and today we actually have VWAP just underneath here, so I would expect to see a little bit of a reaction here because this is where we sort of bounced overnight, but I would like to see further weakness through VWAP eventually. So that doesn't happen, immediately. So you have to allow some sort of a reaction there. And, we have this big round number of 40,000 right at the same level. So if they break through that, that's going to be a pretty significant signal that bears are still in control. At these levels right now, as the market is looking, I'm not interested in longs on this particular trade. Now, when it comes to gold, gold still has some room to go up to a gamma wall at 2670. We're opening above value. So that opens up a possibility for further upside movement. But with the calls and, the gamma wall being so close by, like literally within, 3 handles, I would want to see what happens there first. So if we manage to hold above initial balance and break through the gamma wall, then, maybe some further longs are in play. But for now, it's an interesting area to watch, but it is not yet a trade setup. Let's see. We have a question. When you say licensed trader, what does that mean? Also, could I obtain a license in the UK for myself? It means that I passed my Series 3. So that's one of the exams that are relevant for the futures industry. Series 3 deals with things like literally all things futures. Hedging, how the market makers operate. They cover regulations. They cover, a lot of regulations. In fact, most people, when they take the Series 3, from what I've seen, one of the main reasons for failing is because of the regulations, because you just have to memorize it. But there's a lot of math in it as well, because there's a ton of sort of basis calculations. And what happens is that the people who devised the tests, they effectively provided you with a pretty, the study guides are a bit terrible, right? So I will say that. The study guides are like a very, very bad novel. And you have to kind of run through them, 3 or 4 times. And then as you go back to the lectures and to, the questions, you're supposed to keep going back and then kind of do it through just testing and learning on the fly, effectively. But yeah, if you want to obtain a Series 3 license, 1 minute, I need to clear my throat. I don't know what's going on. Right. So if you want to obtain it in the UK, you can. In fact, that's where I did mine. So I did Chancery Lane. There's a testing center that FINRA has in London, smack in the middle of London. So they apparently have testing centers everywhere. When I was first asked by Topstep to do the Series 3, I thought to myself, oh, how is this going to work? Do they actually have any test centers here? And as soon as I typed in my postcode, they were like, oh yeah, you could just come Chancery Lane, that's your nearest. And I was like, okay, great. That's awesome. So yeah, if you are interested in doing that, just know that if you're not in sort of like a public facing job, it's probably not going to make you into a better trader, but it might give you a very good idea of how the market makers operate and how the hedgers work in the futures markets, and it will give you an idea of why some of these levels actually work and why the unwinding of positions happen at certain levels and why the short squeeze is happening. Sometimes when the market gets too short and you have, suddenly a whole bunch of new buyers stepping in that are sort of bottom pickers, right? You will find that the next day you might have the open interest that increases. Now, that's not something that's talked about a lot. We do talk about it on TopstepTV. But if you go through the Series 3, you will know that the open interest means that you have general positions being increased. So therefore, you can combine that with price direction and see whether it makes sense. Sometimes you will be reading the open interest is falling, but the price is rising. That is more open to the short covering. And therefore, those sort of reversals are probably not going to be long-lived. Because they're just short covering, which means there's more shorts to come, and whoever was long higher up, they just have to, whoever was short higher up, they just, have to bail out their positions at some point, take profits, whatever. So that will reflect in the markets as falling open interest because the open positions are being closed, right? And vice versa is true too. And things like that. But is it going to help you with, being a better trader? No. However, if you want to carve out a career, like let's say as an introducing broker, the Series 3 license offers you to do just that, right? So you can basically look for a job within the industry, and you can still trade for yourself. So you can introduce other people to a particular brokerage and then also carry on trading for yourself as well. Series 3 license is also step 1 towards becoming a CTA, so commodity trading advisor, and also maybe a CPO as well, commodity pool operator. But that's if you want to go into a real public-facing sort of giving advice as a CTA to people. Let's say you want to, you want to write a newsletter with some levels on there. Well, technically, by regulation, you're not really allowed to do that unless you have one of these licenses. And Series 3 is what's relevant for our products. So technically, whoever you see writing newsletters and handing out levels to people, it's not exactly compliant. So I always find it a little bit sketchy when I see services like that. This Series 3 license is not the first qualification that I've held. I've actually had something similar in the UK, but it is a very, very difficult 3-part, 3-exam license. It's like completely different to the US market, and it deals with things like forwards. There's a lot more currency calculations in there. And even though the Series 3 is a little bit heavy on the interest rate futures, so you will get some questions about some products that are not even listed anymore, like, euro dollars and stuff. And euro dollars not as in like the currency, but as in actual interest rate product. And that's not even listed. So, whoever writes the exam, they're probably like 100 years old and have last looked at the markets about 30 years ago or something. Also, you have a lot of lumber questions. I'm not even sure we have lumber anymore. I mean, maybe we do, but, it was just like an odd choice of questions. But there was some more modern ones as well, like copper. A lot of copper questions came up for me. A lot of basis questions and a lot of trick questions and stuff like that. So it was certainly interesting to explore, how people operate on the other side of the pond. Because, for example, for the other exam, I never had to learn about, lean hogs, and I never had to learn about soybeans or, soybean oil. There was actually this trick question where they ask you, because whenever you have standardized futures products, everything that is being sold is of a certain grade, but that's not quite the same as soybean oil, apparently. So one of the trick questions was, what would happen if the soybean oil that the seller was selling was of higher grade? And the answer was there is no such thing, because there is only one chemically acceptable soybean oil. And they give you like nice questions like the buyer would have to pay the premium, all of that. And then you're just like, yeah, no. So, just they try to catch you out. And, it's like any other test, really. But it was pretty fun. Pretty intensive. I never thought that at 44 years of age I would be doing more learning. However, it probably took me all in, like proper, like 3 weeks of studying, with the last week being just like drilling about 300 tests per day, like questions per day from the question bank. I used a couple of versions. So I used the Securities of America guidebook, because I know somebody asked about that yesterday, but I kind of skipped over that question. And then I also bought the Kaplan question bank. So I had like 2 question banks. And that was enough for me to have enough sort of permutations on the questions, and the how would I say it? The format that they were putting the questions in, and it was enough for me to get a pass. Now, when you get a pass, you don't actually get a breakdown of what were the good questions, what weren't the good questions, what you got right, what you got wrong. These days, they just give you a pass or a fail, so you're not going to know. Back in the day, from what I've seen from older tests, they used to give you like a full breakdown. But if you fail the test the first time, they will still give you that breakdown so that you can focus on the parts that weren't that great. So that's, very useful. The test itself, it was very weird. Like, they give you the most pathetic little calculator in the world. They give you a slippery laminated piece of paper with a black marker, which was quite possibly the most useless couple of items that I was ever given on a test. So I thought that was a bit weird. You're also not allowed to delete anything from whatever you put down. But in the end, I just used the notepad that was on the actual screen. The computers were also actually ancient. Like, it took forever to load the test. It took forever to actually give me the result. So, it's not going to be some brand spanking new facility that you walk in and they have like the newest, fastest computers. No, it's quite the opposite. And then the laminated piece of paper was just an extra, like, why would they do that? It's like the test is already very, very challenging. You have to answer 125 questions, out of which 5 are just kind of like test questions, but you won't know which 5 those are. And then in the end, you're just like, why would you give me a tiny little calculator and then a laminated piece of paper that is just so crappy that I don't even just why? And I'm also left-handed, so when I was trying to write with a marker, it was just all like smudging along, which used to be my problem at school. Anytime they gave us like proper sort of pens and stuff. And I always used to, my whole thing always used to look like a mess. And then finally somebody came up with a ballpoint pen. That was like a revelation. And these guys just totally nothing over the head, give you a marker, regardless of whether you're left-handed or right-handed, laminated piece of paper, and off you go. So if I had to give them feedback of like what was my experience, kingdom for regular non-laminated piece of paper and a ball pen. That's all I'm going to say, right? Why combine? So I said at the beginning of the stream, I didn't sleep very well. My older dog, for some reason, kept throwing up all night. I don't know what was up with him. So he woke us up at 4 o'clock. Then he woke us up again at 5:30. And then he woke me up again at 7:30. So and I didn't really go to bed very early. I went to try to go to bed at 2 a.m. So I got very little sleep. And I just don't want to, if my reaction times are slow down, and especially with the live stream, this is a lot. So sometimes people don't realize that, after the stream, I'm actually pretty exhausted and I have to go and have a little power nap before the next session if I'm going to trade it. But whenever you're really tired, your reaction times are not going to be the same. Your decision-making process is going to be compromised. I'm actually on Celsius today. It's helped to kind of keep me functional. And then to put a wrench in the works, I'm still fighting this bloody cold, which I think is going into some sort of a cough or something. So you've noticed I've been clearing my throat a lot. So that's come up today as well. So yeah, I'm just generally not feeling very well. And whenever that happens, I try not to trade the accounts that matter. So I actually locked out my my own account, the live account, until 6 p.m. my time. And then if I'm feeling better then, I might reconsider. However, with the FOMC minutes today, we only have the minutes. It's not the rate decision, it's just the minutes. So most of the time, it's just a repeat of whatever they said last time. But sometimes it can actually bring some nice opportunities towards the end of the day. And if that's the case, I might try popping in a couple of trades. But yeah, it's going to be a bit of a challenging day for me. So whenever that happens, you always have the combines or even the practice account. Why not? So don't derail your accounts that matter just because you really want to trade. You have to do this scan of yourself, scan of whether you are okay. It should be a part of your plan. I'm surprised at how many people don't do that. Whenever I'm taking somebody through my professional development course, already in the first 3 or 4 lectures, I bring up the point of the emotional state that you're in before you're going to trade. Some people just wake up, they feel terrible, they might be sick, or they might be annoyed, or they might be depressed, or whatever, and they sit down and start to trade. That's not the way to do it. So I teach people to have the introspective practice of sitting down and then first basically scanning yourself from the top down. So how does your chest feel? Do you feel tight? Are you breathing right? How do you feel after the first trade? If the trade was a loss, is your heart pounding? That's a sign of a fight or flight response right there and then, right? So you have to disrupt that first in order to continue to trade well. If you're not aware of that behavior and that feeling, it definitely will affect how you trade. Now, one way to battle the fight or flight response is to get the glycogen reserves out of the way. Many of us are pretty active physically. Unfortunately, I'm not able to do that anymore due to some health issues I've experienced last 3 years. But before then, I was actually a bodybuilder. I did like fitness competitions. I won like 5 or 6 of them. And I think I did like 11 or 12 competitions in the space of a year. And then I continued to do bodybuilding for 7 years, all the way up to the point where I got chronically ill for whatever reason, which I'm not going to get into. So basically, to disrupt the fight or flight response, the quickest way, if you can lift weights, that will be your go-to. You will see many of us, like I said, you see traders who are, hey, I went off to exercise and, to do stuff. The reason why we do that is because A, it helps with stress, B, it helps with fight or flight response, and the biological reason for that is to effectively get the fuel for the glycogen, for the fight or flight out of your body, which is adrenaline and glycogen. Glycogen fuels adrenaline, and then everything kicks off into just a complete disaster, fight or flight, and many people just run with that. However, at that point, it's not you trading, it is the animal part of you. So you have to learn how to recognize it, which is probably one of the toughest things that you will ever be doing. The heart starts pounding. What is your next response? To fight, right? You want to fight out of the loss. But you actually have to engage your prefrontal cortex, the rational part of our brains, and go, no, this is just my fight or flight. And you can try and step outside of yourself, look at it as a challenging situation, and be proactive about your emotionality. Men suck at this, okay? One of the reasons why women are better traders in general is because men are taught to bottle up their emotions, and for the most part it works. But in trading, it's not going to work. You can't hide from your emotions because it's money, it's emotional for most people. You want to prove to everybody, blah, 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 all of that. But you have to start being more aware, more emotionally aware, especially if you are more on that emotional side, but you're hiding it well, okay? That's probably the worst case scenario here. So if you just go, okay, my heart is pounding, I'm getting tunnel vision. Some people get cold sweat as well, so that could be a sign. But mainly it's shallow breathing, heart pounding. That is your signal to just step away from the desk. Go lift some weights if you can, if you are able, and then come back when your rational brain starts to come back. And that's something that you will feel and you will learn how to deal with over time. So rational brain coming back has a particular feeling to it whilst you're exercising. And I can't really describe it in any good way, but I can tell you that there's a definite difference, right? And that's the first step I do. So it's like, how am I feeling today? Am I feeling riled up? Am I feeling okay? Am I calm? Do I maybe, we just constantly joke around, go pop a beta blocker. But honestly, that's probably not a bad idea if you suffer from a lot of anxiety related, trading related anxiety. It is in a way performance anxiety, isn't it? So maybe not a bad idea to try and calm yourself down, at least from that physical side. But don't resort to beta blockers immediately. Go do exercise first, and then if that fails, maybe seek some help. Obviously make sure to go to a doctor. Don't just self-medicate. But yeah, so that is why I am very aware that time of the year for me is not quite right either. Usually big boys start coming back to the desks around the 12th, 15th maybe. And then you see more normal tape start to play out. Now I see everything as a bit spiky, a bit wicky, and just like non-committed movement. Even though there is movement, there's a lot of like up and down and indecision within the candles across the board, right? That platinum trade worked out nicely yesterday, and yeah, I also did a little DAX scalp in the morning, and then I was just like completely wiped, so I had to go and rest a little bit. But that DAX trade actually went to like 3R if I had held it, but I just couldn't sit there watching it. All right, so let me see. Could you write that office name? So it's not an office name. It's going to be like if you are in London, I think they might have other test centers apart from Chancery Lane. If you go onto the FINRA website and you want to register for the Series 3, I would probably first go to get a study guide for the Series 3. And then, once you start going through the book, you can sort of book it for about maybe 5-6 weeks time and then work towards that goal. But yeah, if you go to FINRA website, FINRA, it's actually... Is it test enrollment? So it actually takes me to the test enrollment finra.org. And yeah, and I just looked for the nearest test center. I'm gonna probably post this link just to help people out. I think I can just do test enrollment finra.org. So FINRA is an American organization, right? But obviously they have tests everywhere. Oliver had another question. CFA. So CFA is a different, much more elaborate qualification. So CFA would be probably like maybe a year or 2 years worth of studying. It's almost like getting another degree. So that's a lot more labor intensive than some of these tests that are just like, 5 weeks and then you go and pass it, or 3 weeks or 1 week or whatever, depends on your thing. What's up with that trade and isn't going anywhere? Yeah, this is London and Nikkei. That's what it is. Let's have a look at some other questions. Do you think when we get 24/7 markets, they will move slower? No, I don't think so. So what's going to happen is just that we're going to have a lot of out-of-hours sessions, and it's going to be like Forex, right? Forex trades 24/5 with a bit of a pump in volume during the active trading hours. That's going to continue. We actually had that many times before on ES. Like back in the day, the S&P pit was the only place where you could actually trade ES. And once the settlement was done, settlement meant the end of the pit trading hours. So basically it was just like, oh yeah, we're done, we're finished. There's no more trading, like just no more trading, right? But then they decided to move to electronic trading, and then they opened up everything to trade 23 hours, 5 days a week. Did that make that much difference to the regular trading hours? No, the regular trading hours still has the most volume. It still has the most participants. And it's still arguably the most violent, right? All of the major moves on most days will come from the regular trading hours. They're not going to come from Asia. They're not going to come from London. Unless you're trading a London-specific product like DAX, they're not going to, So I don't think it's going to make that much difference. It's going to be like meh. Here's a question. Are you guys going to be trading over the weekend if we have the possibility to do so? Or are you going to keep your weekends sacred? Maybe, I don't know whether we can do polls here, but maybe see what people say. Yeah. Pro Trader says, hi, Deeyana, stop eating a lot of sweets. I'm on keto diet, mate, for 9 years running, so I don't do sweets. Maybe unless there's somebody's birthday or something that I may have like, to be honest, I would probably have a glass of alcohol over a cake, because I don't drink that much, but, in a special occasion, you're having dinner, and whatever you're having, maybe like pair it with a glass of wine or something. But yeah, sweets are not really my thing. I don't do sweets. I don't do carbs in general. I do intermittent fasting. I do, so... Yeah, if I was eating sweets with my current health condition, I would be enormous, probably. And clearly, I'm maintaining a normal weight. So thanks for that, mate. Paul ACH, hit the like, and he reminds me, hit the like button, guys, if you're finding any value in what I'm yapping on about here. Definitely a good reminder. Do you know if mental Q levels are now dynamically updating in TraderView? I don't think so, because I have it and I haven't seen them updated. So yeah, I still have to, unless there's something else that I need to install, but I still have to put in the levels and they change every single day. So I don't think that the API is active for TradingView yet for mental Q. I really don't, but yeah, we'll... Yeah, you're probably better off asking Fabio that. He's pretty active in their Discord, so just ask him. He's always there. It's probably there now. As soon as he wakes up, he's like in Discord. And he's a cool guy. Like both him and Patrick from MentorQ, they're awesome guys. Me and Anne-Marie actually did a nice little webinar with them on their channel. So yeah, it's great. Nicholas says, is this being pushed by Topstep management? Well, yes, partly. They would like all of us on-air people to have qualifications. They are talking about the education. We are giving you levels. A lot of the times where, people are following you into trades and stuff. And it's like, well... You're effectively public facing. So in order to stay ahead of the regulation and compliance, to keep all of us as compliant as possible, the absolute minimal qualification for that role is a Series 3. They don't ask you to sign up with the CFTC to become a CTA or anything, although you can pay an extra membership fee, and then you have to do a whole bunch of disclosure documents, and it becomes a very cancerous activity. However, with a Series 3, as long as you disclose that this is not financial advice, it's still for educational purposes only, and that we still cannot give out signals as such. It's literally just for entertainment and educational purposes, unless all of us suddenly decide to become CTAs, right? And then we can advise you on the actual levels, and we can advise you what you should do with your money. We're not there yet, okay? Maybe at some point in the future, if the prop firms online become regulated more by the CME, we could very easily see that requirement that whoever is running a public financial channel needs to have some sort of a qualification behind them. So is that a bad thing? I think that's a good thing for the industry, that all of your client-facing people should be qualified to do whatever the hell they're doing, right? So who are you going to listen to? Somebody who's got a Series 3 and can obviously pass a Series 3 exam, which is pretty challenging. And it's like the ins and outs of the futures markets and a whole bunch of options. There's a lot of options calculations. Like if you've never known anything about the options, once you go to the Series 3, it's going to be a lot clearer for you what the options are used for, why people would sell options at all, what conditions you might have in order to sell options or to buy options. And they're usually used, the long options are usually used for downside risk management, whereas the writers of options usually want to generate some extra income. If we have, let's say, a range-bound market like we've had in crude oil for a million years now, that would have been an excellent environment to run, just to sell options whenever you get to either side of that range. And until it breaks out, you probably would have been pretty safe for at least like 3 to 6 months. It was like so range bound. It was ridiculous. So yeah. So yes, it is being advised by Topstep that they want us to do it. I mean, you don't have to, but I don't know whether Topstep would be happy with anyone who's just like, oh no, F off, I don't want to do Series 3. It's like, it's such a small amount of your time to prove that you have enough knowledge or whatever. And it's not an easy thing to pass. You've seen some people who are amazing traders fail it at the first time. And usually it's the regulations. All of us can do math, right? It's like the math side of it. For me, at least, it was the easier part. But it was the whole regulations that you just had. Like, there's questions that are like, oh, what is the maximum fine for, doing fraudulent activities and stuff? And you have to know that it's up to 10 years in jail and $1 million. You just have to know it, right? And then if they give you like, is it... 5 years in jail, and $974,000, or they just give you like these weird numbers, and if you don't know the answer, if you have not memorized it, you're gonna fail those questions. So yeah, but yeah, I'm all for it. Like I said, I had to do the qualification for my previous role about 10 years ago. It's not 10 years ago, it's probably about 8 years ago. And then, those licenses do expire. So just beware. If you can't connect the license to a company, you have about 2 years before, if you want to keep the license, you will have to redo it. If you can connect it to a company, then yes, it is an option to effectively try and maybe be an introducing broker if that's what you want, or maybe go down the route of CTA if you're a really good trader and you're thinking, actually, I would like to trade other people's money. You can then do so, right? And there are other things, like if you have up to, X amount of capital from your investors, and or up to, I think, 15 people investing in your pool, you don't even need to register with the CFTC as a commodity pool operator. But once you go over certain amounts and number of people investing, then you absolutely have to. So again, with the Series 3, there are flexibilities to begin your journey towards maybe running some sort of an investment firm. I thought about that, and to me, it's just the most cancerous thing ever, because there's a lot of accounting, there's a lot of reporting, and I just can't, I don't really like doing that. I like trading, right? So I want to be doing this sort of stuff and, figuring out what is going on in the market, not writing reports for people. So, Wow, this Nikkei trade is just not going anywhere, is it? Christ, that's very slow. Right, let's bail out of that. Let's just watching paint dry. Let's see if we can maybe get in on a long gold, because it's kind of having trouble around the TPO POC, which is right around here. Very similar to the volume POC here on a 15-minute. And if we get maybe a nice committed movement above this ribbon. Right now it's a bit flat, so I'm not really liking that. But platinum is breaking out. So maybe gold will follow suit. And then we can maybe run a gold scalp up to that 26.70 level. It's not the biggest trade because it's only 25 ticks higher. But that's what happens. However, I do need it to hold above the initial balance high, which at the moment is located at 2667.5. So either that, or that we at the very least hold above the POC at 2666. The number of the beast. Yeah, so we have the number of the beast here in in gold, and if we can hold about 26.6, then we might have a long. So yeah. Oh no, is there LA wildfires again? My bloody hell, they're always having trouble with fire. I actually have a really close friend who lives in LA. She was more she's from Bournemouth originally over here, but she moved to California a number of years ago, and yeah, she was one of my bridesmaids actually. Dee, what do you think for NQ at NY Open? NY Open is a little bit far away. Many things can happen before we get there, but let's have a look at some options levels. Maybe I can provide you with a little bit more generic levels that could come into play throughout the day, right? So whenever I'm talking London specific levels, they are pretty much irrelevant by the time that we get to the New York session. So it's a different sort of activity. Where did my mouse go? There it is. But yeah, when we're talking options, and especially if we have some areas that are further out, then that actually becomes pretty cool. All right, so on NQ, let's move this like that. On NQ, right now, we're in a kind of a no man's land. There is a sign that we're reaching some of the higher time frame areas where more selling could be in order. And I mean, you can see that on the weekly chart, but oh my God, it's so spiky. Like, look at this. This is a weekly chart. Like, what are they doing? Spiky, right? This is why I don't like trading first part of January. Horrible. Supplies upon supplies upon supplies, you know, and we are still just holding this 21,000 level. But if we're not able to break through the 21,000 at some point in the next couple of weeks, or maybe even today, the way NASDAQ can be, then we might be looking at a bit of a bear trend. You know, that would be certainly a sign that the relevant demands have been broken. So yeah, I would probably be on the short side if like gun to the head. Not here though, from a little bit further up. Let me have a look at the 4-hour chart. As it stands right now, so Asia started off very quiet, obviously, so that's not really giving us that much. The only supply that I can see is from yesterday, so that is at 21,704. There is a HVL, so the HVL is a high volume level from the 0 DTE options, where if we cross that at about 21,500 ballpark, I would say that we probably have more upside on our hands, right? I have a gamma wall at 21,600, roughly. And that could be a pretty good target and or a starting point for any shorts. I would be looking at ballpark 50-point area from 600 to 650 in order to get that reversal. So I would be watching the 50 handle range to try and see where the sellers step in, and then obviously express my views in that way. But that is actually a very, very good area to look for shorts. Also matches almost this supply, but I think we have a visible supply here. Yeah, so okay, so we have a bearish engulfing here. I like bearish engulfings on the daily and 4-hour charts a lot for reversal signals, especially when they're strong. So what is a strong bearish engulfing? When the close of the candle that is engulfing the other one closes lower than the low. So the close of the current candle has to be lower than the previous candle low. So current candle close lower than previous candle low, and that's exactly what we have here. I actually have a whole course about candlestick patterns because nobody ever thinks about the strength of the candlestick patterns. And as we were coding our algorithms and as I was reviewing what trades the algorithms took, I was like, oh, this is a bearish engulfing. And I'm like, yeah, well, technically it did close below the previous candle close. But I then wondered what would have happened if I filter out the signals by just using the previous candle low as a filter instead. So rather than having a bearish engulfing that closes below the close, I'm like, let's have it only valid when it closes below the candle low, previous candle low. Lo and behold, those signals were a lot better. However, I then had another problem where if the candle was too big, I then had to add another filtering condition that if we went over a third of the average true range for the day, that would be an invalid signal because it would be too big of a candle. It means the move happened all in one go. And it's just like things that crop up as you're coding algorithms and you're like, okay. So yeah, so on the longs, if we can crack the 500 level, so 21,500, that opens up the possibility to 600, at which point I would be looking for shorts. Now, if we don't manage to confidently go over 500 and we just go wow and come back below it, there is a chance of smashing slowly all the way through to 21,250 and then further down to 21,200. That is all within the day's range and within the algorithmically expected move for the day. But yeah, you do have a couple of levels that could be a little bit of a sore point and difficult to get through. So whenever I see multiple gamma exposure levels, that's never really great for smooth movement. So if we start to fall away from here, it's going to be a choppy ride down. So I don't like to see that. I like to see clean space where we don't really have anything in the way and we're just like either rising or falling with nothing in the way. And that's not the case with the downside from these levels. So we would need a rise up, reversal that would, give us a bit better risk profile. But if it just starts to fall, I'm predicting, let me put my fortune teller cap on, predicting that we're going to have a very, very choppy downside if we don't crack the 500 first. But yeah, I'm generally bearish on equities today, just because of where we are across the board. I know that DAX went screaming higher today, but I don't really like to trade DAX that early on. I look for understanding before I actually get involved. And obviously with me not having slept, that's probably not a great idea. However, even on DAX, we are arriving to some levels up at 20,600 as well. Oh, yeah, we've got interesting that similar numbers are floating around DAX and Mr. Nasdaq, the catnip for traders. On DAX, if you're trading DAX, if we carry on higher, there's so much space above. Like I can see space. Okay, there is a little bit of so 20,600 is the London session high. Average session high. It's kind of like the ATR, but just for the London regular hours. That's my measure. I basically came up with that when I needed it, especially on days when we would kind of go screaming through the ATR. And then I was like, well, now what? And then I came up with the idea to only use the regular trading hours, and that became my concept of average session ranges. So, a lot of the things that you need as a trader and you don't have at the time, you eventually come up with that. So you're like, oh yeah, let's see. But actually, let me do my YOLO private account and just do like maybe a long on DAX, see whether we can reach those levels up there. Since we are above initial balance now, we have another 8 minutes or so. However, the buyers seem very, very strong. So let's see if we can ride that to the upside. I got in long at 20,574. That's my kind of like my YOLO account. Got about 50 grand in there, nothing too big. So Won't be trading with too much size there, but yeah, a couple of contracts. So yeah, let's see if DAX can reach those levels. I'm gonna just show you what DAX looks like now. So that's what I'm aiming for. That is the projected move for the London session, and then we have again an HVL converted from ES at 605, and then further up we have another projected move from the options around 20,661, and then you have some calls up at 20,700. So if this thing starts to scream higher, I mean, you could get one of those trending days like we had yesterday on DAX, and it just screams all the way up to the call resistance area. So that is a possibility. But, you know, just be careful, because trending days are not, you know, they don't happen every single day. And when you've already had one, I'm always a bit skeptical to run another one. So this is also probably going to end up as a scalp if we can get some committed movement. But yeah, you know, a little bit of a YOLO trade there. I am still short on equities, but I'm looking for decent levels to actually be short at. And we're not quite there yet. There's still a bit of space, especially on DAX, like around 650. We have a 4-hour supply, and that is also a low volume area. So I would like that better for shorts. And maybe we can, you know, we can do that. We'll see. Anyway, where were we? Let's have a look at some more questions, if we have them. Let me go back to my Discord here. So yeah, Deeyana, can you give us your views on DAX for UK traders? Yeah, I just did. So basically we are breaking out. We have one small resistance at 20,600, but plenty of room to actually go up to 20,650 at the very least. And just to give you another overview of that. So that is where the 4-hour supply is. I'm using a multi-time frame mode on my Blatic supply and demand indicator. And also you can see the 4 weeks worth of profile is up. Over here is saying it's a low volume area. Okay. So that's what I will be. We're already tracking through one low volume area. We're going to run into a little bit of resistance here. But generally, the calls, you know, the gamma wall is all the way up at 700. So maybe that could be your kind of zoomed in level. However, I like to look at sort of 30 to 50 ticks from around. Everything is a zone. You know, whenever I say, oh, 700, it doesn't mean that I want 700 to the tick. I literally am looking for, you know, just a zone. It's a rough area of reference. You know, we're manual traders. We're not running code here. You don't need to be like that precise. If you are running code-based, you know, algorithms, yeah, you do have to give it a price level. You know, for example, if I was a machine, I would be going, well, once we hit 700, so if price over 20,700, look for bearish engulfing. Look for current price to reverse and to close, you know, what I talked about before, to close current candle below previous candle low. And you can write that all in code. And then it does it, right? It monitors for you. And, you know, we do have a number of algorithms that we run for like other firms and stuff. But at the same time, those firms license the algorithms with a view that they have their quant strategists that will decide whether to run the algorithm actively or not, right? Our job is just there to ensure that the results are there for the time period tested, and then to keep optimizing it just to make sure that the performance is on par. However, you know, whenever a firm licenses an algorithm from somebody else, they will always go, okay, well, what is this? It's a momentum trade. Well, are we in a seasonality where, you know, the momentum trades are actually justified? If not, the quant strategist is just going to switch off the momentum trade, and they're going to go to the range bound strategies, probably in options, a lot more than, you know, trying to outperform the market that is like watching paint dry, literally. So yeah. Okay, so let's have a look at more things. Elsa says, are you bearish on gold too because of news and data? Well, gold is a tricky beast, right? Right now, I want to see what happens at 26,700 on gold. So I'm going to run a bit of a larger trade here to try and reach that, right? So just to get a little bit of action here on this combine. So basically, if we cannot break this to 2670 level on gold, I would be not bearish on gold, because that would be a pretty strong signal that the calls are not able to stop the market from going higher. You know, any level that you look at, I look at it in a way of whether the market is sustaining above it or not. Like, you can have a level get tested, and you can have, you know, let's say I'm looking for a breakout above, let's say I'm bullish on gold and I'm looking for a breakout. Well, if we break this 2670 level, but we cannot sustain above it, that's actually a bearish sign. So I would have to bail out of my longs, right? If I were to hold them much past that area. If it sustains the move, and every time they start coming back to that same broken level on a back test and they're sustaining the price above it, it means that price is being defended, that zone is being defended. And then this is why a 15-minute time frame is very useful to see whether we've sustained the move outside or something. 30-minute even better, but if you're only using 30 minutes, that comes at the expense of a trade location, which is sometimes why you see me front-running trades from a low time frame and then looking for 15 and 30-minute hold. When it doesn't, I cut it, and I very quickly decide if there's a flip, to like a flip trade to the opposite side. I did that on platinum yesterday, and then the second trade I held for like hours. I didn't even look at it. So yeah. But yeah, the idea of whether the move is sustained or just tested and rejected, that is a big, big idea that you should be implementing in your trading. Now, a little bit more difficult than NASDAQ because it goes up and down, like, as one of my traders would say, like the horse drawers. He's an Australian dude, so, you know, I always find Australian sayings are so colorful. And yeah, it's like literally so nervous intra-candle that it's like up and down, up and down, up and down. But yeah, it's certainly more difficult to figure out whether it's going to sustain or not. However, if you have enough, you know, plums to hold on to a NASDAQ trade for 15 minutes, you might get rewarded for it, you know. What time frame is the initial balance, please? It is every time you have a new exchange. So let's say London Open, it's going to be the first hour, high and low. So you have, for London, it would be 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. But for New York session, depending on the product, that will differ. So for example, for GC, I don't know where you're located, but for in GMT time, like in Greenwich Mean Time, it's from gold trades on the COMEX exchange, which technically used to open at 1:20 p.m., but most platforms are just looking at it as at 1:30. So 1:30 p.m. till 2:30 p.m. London time is the COMEX initial balance. If you're trading equities, it's going to be 2:30 till 3:30 p.m. London time. So Tokyo is going to be midnight until 1 a.m. over here. You know, it really depends. But it's always the first hour of the regular exchange hours, whatever you're trading, high and low. It's pretty simple. All right, gold. Now or never. Come on. Let's do it. Let's answer a couple more questions, and then I'm going to be out of here. Desmond has a similar question to the initial balance. It's from 1:30 p.m. To 2:30 p.m. for gold specifically. NYMEX is 2 p.m. till 3 p.m. So NYMEX is half an hour later than COMEX. So NYMEX and COMEX are two different exchanges, right? So I actually have... Okay, let me see if I can drag out the regular trading hours, because I used to have that on my Twitter. Where would it be? Oh God, you're making me think now. This time of day, shock horror. Yeah, so somewhere on my Twitter you will find a jokey post saying why crude oil dead in par hour, with Bob looking grumpy as usual. Bob is the lizard that I use as my company logo. A fierce ambush predator. Yeah, so on my profile, I suppose I haven't posted that much, so maybe I can go through maybe media or something and see if I can find it that way. Oop, I posted a lot more than I thought. Okay. Wow, okay. I posted a lot more than I think I posted. It's very interesting. Okay, I can't find the bloody link right now. I should have prepared this before. Let me see if maybe I can quickly scroll through it, and that might be better. But yeah, basically it's just a little very simple table that you can download of when the market opens, and it's in, I think, in EST rather than GMT, but still very useful. And then you know the opening and closing times for the exchanges. So I'm gonna see if I can find that. No, still nothing. Jesus Christ, how much do I put? I didn't think I was this active on Twitter at all, and yet I have like about 1 million posts there. Yeah, I think it's because I repost other people's things as well, so maybe that adds up to a whole bunch of stuff that that makes me look like I'm active on Twitter, and I'm not. Like, I'm barely on Twitter. So whoever, and by the way, if you're DMing me, like I've seen some people who are like, oh, I'll send you a DM. I check my DMs very, very rarely, because there are a couple of trolls that think they're going to rile me up or something. I don't know what their idea is. But I just don't, So click on that link. It's going to take you to a little downloadable thingy that you can effectively use. And yeah, you can see when the exchanges are open and when the initial balances are opening up and finishing. So yeah, Vlad ES Futures says, when do you think Topstep will have custom timeframes? I don't know. I'm not their developer, unfortunately. Yeah, so custom timeframes, it's one of those things. I mean, I quite like the 2-minute, 3-minute, and 10-minute time frame. I know we don't have the 10 minutes, but we do have pretty much a nice array of things. I would also like to see 3 and 2 hours, because I think 1 to 4 hours is a big jump. But I don't know when. Your guess is as good as mine, So just if you have any sort of requests, you need to upvote stuff. Like, you know how I'm always pushing Eurex in your face, which I'm going to do again right now towards the end of the stream. If we want to get Eurex anytime before the end of never, the 12th of never, we need to upvote posts. It's a feature voting thing. They have the whole bunch of stuff they're working on, and if you want to bump it up on the onto the top of the list so that they actually implement it, it's gonna have like at least 400 votes, right? Maybe even 1,000. I don't know what the benchmark is, but the more votes a post has, the faster they will work on it. That's just how they decide to do things, right? Dallas Bone says, good morning, everyone, except trolls. No, I'm going to say good morning to trolls as well, because they're the ones who really need it. Just the fact that they, wake up with a rage and they have to create new accounts to go troll other people that they have no idea about and they're not even friends with, and they've just seen them on the internet. That is like either someone going off their meds or something being very wrong in their soul. And I actually feel sorry for them. It's like, to have that much negativity in your life, someone needs to give you a hug and say, it's okay, I don't see why, some of us, I mean, everybody on Topstep or any sort of a public facing media, everybody gets so much stick. Like, it doesn't matter. You can't do right. Okay. You make money, they hate you. You lose money, they hate you. You're calling good trades, they hate you. You're calling bad trades, they hate you. It's like, you post great results, everybody hates you. Oh, it's not good enough. It's like, really? But yeah, I always feel that those guys are, and it's usually men, interestingly. I don't think I've ever had a woman troll. It's like a very interesting thing. I would just say, whoever hurt you, just, know that there is love for you out there in the world as well. So I will be, saying, don't, try not to be mean. And if you are mean, and if I ever meet you in real life, one of the trolls, I'm going to hug you. And I'm not a hugger, so that tells a lot. I will hug people that need it, right? I'm always a bit awkward with hugging, actually, joking aside. I'm not that great socially. I'm always like a little bit awkward. I never know what to do, whether I should be... Like some people in the UK, they love to kiss you, even though they've never met you before in their life. I go to shake their hand and they hug you and give you a kiss, and I'm like, okay, on the cheek, obviously, nothing weird, but it's always, I've always found it a bit strange. And Serbians also have the same thing. They actually kiss you 3 times. There's a comedian over here in the UK called Michael McIntyre who said he went to France and they kissed 4 times. So he said, I've just met all these people and like I've just kissed them more than I've kissed my wife in a month. and that's kind of how it feels sometimes. So I'm a little bit awkward in social situations when it comes to people wanting to hug too quickly, too soon. But yeah, some people really need it though. Bankroll says, for you doing the show, do you mind me asking what your schedule looks like and how you plan when you're trading? So basically, after I'm over with this, I try to have a very, very long rest. So at least a couple of hours completely away from the charts. If I'm in a trade already, I will usually just let it run because it's the sort of trades that I typically run for the London session. They have legs to go higher or lower, depends on what I'm trying to do with them. But yeah, in general, it will be more, it will be prudent for me to rest between the sessions. On Thursdays, usually that's a very long day for me. So I would typically do a London session in the morning, and then I will do Back to the Futures at like 7 p.m. That's almost like a 12 hour difference. If I'm doing something else, maybe popping in for the VIP, or just a quick fast market visit, that would be yet more, effort, and I have to be ready to have my face on and everything, because women are never supposed to be on without makeup, and I tried going without makeup and then I got absolutely slaughtered by trolls. Like, how can you trust what a woman is saying if she looks unkempt? And I'm like, I'm sick, dude, give it a rest. Like, I literally appeared like once. Bruno says, in France, it depends. It could be 2, 3, or 4 times of kissing, depending on the region, and also starting with the left side or right side. Wow, I didn't know that. I think Serbians don't have a particular side as long as it's like 3 times of the kissing strangers thing. Or kissing everyone. They just kiss everybody. Not great for COVID, right? Yeah. Yeah, so bankroll, if I have, three segments, which has happened before I used to be on fast markets, to be honest, it really, really derailed my trading completely. They wanted us to trade NASDAQ and ES. I was trying to focus on my products and they just weren't interested in it. I was like, oh, GC, and they're like, yeah, whatever. What's NASDAQ doing? So it became a little bit kind of pointless for me to be on fast markets because they just want to see NASDAQ trades, right? And I absolutely despise NASDAQ at that time of the day. So I kind of thought to myself, why are we doing this? Like, is it just, and rightfully so, we kind of made the decision to just not have me on that. It was kind of supping all of my energy. And then I would be looking at NASDAQ and ES trades and completely missing out on the trades that I'm supposed to be doing. So it was, it was not the most ideal thing. Maybe at some point when, if we ever get more people trading other things, we could potentially, reintroduce some traders who are GC traders or, RBOB traders in the future. But for now, everybody's so bloody obsessed with NASDAQ that I don't see the point. So for the first markets, you might see me dropping in as a VIP at some point, but, that's pretty much it. However, I frequently have late appearances. So sometimes it's Back to the Futures, other times it's Power Hour, and then I have to really be careful with my energy levels, because if I'm not, and if I try to just do it all in one go, I'm just totally wrecked by the time we get to that late segment. And it's very late for me at that point. It's like either 7 p.m. or like 8 p.m. Usually I try to be in bed by about 10, 11 p.m. So I'm not somebody who stays up late anymore, unless I have to, like last night because the dogs are throwing up. But generally, it's just one of the it's just one of the things. So Siwa says Dakota doesn't put on a face of makeup. Sometimes hair brushing hasn't even happened, and it doesn't matter for him. Yeah, because he's a dude. He's a dude. Like, dudes don't really wear pancake and makeup. Like, some people do, but most don't. It's not the same for women. Okay, so women are perceived to be like dainty little flowers, and as such, appearance matters. Unfortunately, it's just the world we live in, and it is what it is, right? So basically, we effectively have to keep up appearances. So if you see a woman that is unkept, it's perceived as, you're not taking care of yourself. So therefore, how can you actually teach me anything? This is the actual responses that I got when I tried going face like me. And, I don't have any problems with my face. Like I have like dark circles around my eyes. But apart from that, I don't look all that much different. And yet, because I had, the dark circles, which made me look tired, I didn't have, the polished look that I normally have. A whole bunch of people decided to rip me a new one. And it's like, oh yeah, thanks guys. So since then, just to keep everybody's peace, I just put a very basic face of makeup. I know it looks like, oh, I'm wearing a lot. I actually just have some eyeliner and a bit of like contouring and concealer. That's about it. Like, I don't generally wear that much makeup at all. So yeah. All right, guys, I'm going to bounce. I'm going to house viewing in about an hour and a half or so. So I do need to go. This gold trade is also not going anywhere, but I'm going to keep it anyways because this is just such a small target. I think they're just wiggling it around. We're still hanging above the initial balance. If I show you the 30-minute chart, we have rally base, rally. I call this the staircase formation, right? So we have a rally, then a base, then a rally, then another base, and hopefully another rally that's going to push us to there. If it doesn't, so be it. I will lose 19 ticks. It's a combine. I don't care. So it's not like we can do combines anymore. But in case that I ever lose a live account, maybe it's not a bad idea to keep some of the XFAs on the back because you never know what happens. And that will be it for today. Okay, let's take another question and then I'm going to go. So how do you display the gamma levels on Topstep X charts? you don't. So basically, it is the trading view charts. We don't have the third-party indicators yet. So what I do, I actually use the trading view indicator on my other screen, and then when there's an interesting level, I would just put it on manually. This is what I do more than putting on my makeup before I come on. I basically put my custom levels from my other charting platforms into Topstep. I'm looking forward to when we get TPOs. That would be amazing. And, if at some point we get like some kind of a third-party API in there, that would be even more amazinger. Until then, we're just going to have to do with manual clicking and drawing levels. All right, that's it. Please press like, press subscribe as well if you're not subscribed. And enjoy the rest of the day. Remember, tomorrow is off-air day because we are honoring Jimmy Carter. It's his funeral, President Jimmy Carter, and the markets will not be opened. And, well, I don't know whether they won't be open completely, but we certainly will not be on air for that in order to respect his life, his funeral, and however you say it, see him through, right? To celebrate his life. And wasn't he like 100? That's a good age, isn't it? I'd like to be 100. That'd be nice. All right, let's finish this up. Like I said, enjoy the rest of the broadcast. I will see you again probably not until next Monday. I don't think I've got any other appearances on Friday this week. But yeah, so I will be watching, I will be in chat, with some relevant updates. If you guys are watching natural gas or RBOB during the main trading hours, I might throw out some levels in there. But until then, thank you for joining me here. And thank you, Bruno, for moderating the chat so well and for throwing me all the questions. Always great to see you here. Without you, I don't know what I would do. Probably wouldn't be able to concentrate nearly as well. So yeah, I'm Market Stalker Dee, aka Deeyana Angelo, and this has been the London session on TopstepTV. Enjoy the rest of the day. I will see you Monday. Take care.